Hello, this is T. Hoffman, and it's time for 10 Minutes with T. I hope that you're having a great day. I am often asked by my coaching clients why they have to fill out pre work. Now, some of you may think that this pre work is not important, but it really is important because the pre work actually helps me get to know the coaching client better before I ever even talk to them. So, what does the pre work entail? Well, it entails a personality profile, and I use 16personalities.com for that. It involves a core values questionnaire, a SWOT analysis, so they can actually tell me what they perceive to be their strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, and also a coaching questionnaire. Once we get into coaching, I also ask them to fill out what I call a social styles assessment. And many times people say to me, well, that's kind of redundant because I've already filled out a personality profile. But social styles are a little different from your personality because your social styles and your style that is identified by the test and assessment actually identifies how you interact with people on social levels. In other words, how you communicate with people. What is your preferred communication style? In other words, the way you communicate, and also indicates how you would like for people to communicate with you, not only in a social setting all the time, but also in a work setting, in relationships. Personal relationships, etc. So your social styles are actually influenced by many different things. Your upbringing, for example, your socioeconomic background, whether you're highly educated, all of those things play a role in our social style. And there are different frameworks for social styles and different ways to classify them. But the most popular way to classify them is actually done by two guys, and their names are David Merrill and Roger Reed. And they came up with a model that encompasses two dimensions. And these two dimensions are called the assertive dimension and the responsiveness dimension. Now, the assertive dimension actually refers to the way people express their opinions, the way they assert their needs. In other words, are they able to tell you exactly what they need and want? Their ability to take charge in certain situations. And there are high assertives, and we all know those people who are always telling us what their needs are and always want to be in charge. And they're very direct and outspoken people. And then there are low assertives, and those people are more reserved and perhaps a little bit more diplomatic than those high assertives. Then there's the responsive dimension, and the responsive dimension refers to the degree in which individuals display their emotions and show empathy towards others. So I bet you know someone out there who's very emotional. They get excited and happy, and they're willing to laugh really loud, and they express joy very easily, or they express sadness or disappointment very easily. And then there are people who are low emotional. They keep their emotions, kind of tucked away and hidden. So there's high responsiveness and low responsiveness. Your low responsiveness are more controlled and held back just a little bit. They also, though, tend to be more focused because they are very task oriented. When you combine these two dimensions, Merle and Reed came up with four different quadrants, and those quadrants consist of these categories. There's drivers, expressives, amiables, and analyticals. So, what do they represent? Well, the drivers are those high assertive, low responsive people. They're in charge, they want to get results. They're very task oriented. They take over the meeting, for example. Um, they focus on getting things done regardless of whether it hurts other people's feelings or not. They're kind of demanding people, for example. Then you've got your expressives, and they're highly assertive and highly responsive. They're outgoing and energetic, and they're enthusiastic when they communicate. They're very social, and they always motivate people to get things done, but they don't necessarily do them themselves. In other words, they can get other people to follow them. These people are many times leaders in an organization. Amiables are low assertive and highly responsive. They're friendly, they're supportive, they're your client relationship managers, for example. They're great team members, they're cooperative, they value harmony and joy and kindness, but they don't necessarily want to be a leader, but they like being a team member. And then you've got your analyticals, and your analyticals are low assertive and low responsive, and they are detail oriented. They like the facts. They like logic. They like science. They like structure. You know, they like data. Excel is always up on their computers, for example. Their desk is always immaculate. Everything has a place. So those people actually like that kind of communication style from others. So all these styles are not 100%. In other words, you can be part analytical and part driver. So I bet you know some drivers that are analytical. In other words, they're take charge people, but they take charge by understanding these Excel spreadsheets and these facts and know exactly where they want those numbers to go in order to reach a certain goal. All right. Then you've got some people, for example, who may be more amiables and drivers. In other words, they want people to work together, but they were working together towards reaching a certain goal. So don't think that just because I've said these four styles that everybody fits nicely in one of these boxes. Because when you take the social styles assessment, you're going to see that you may be really close to another box. So just know that that's the case. But understanding social styles becomes increasingly important if you want to build a book of business, because not only do you have to understand yourself, which is critically important, but you have to understand others and be able to identify their social style quickly so that you can communicate with them more effectively. So think about that. Your communication approach with an analytical, for example, are you going to go in there and talk to them about your kids' baseball game, about soccer last week, about your favorite NFL team? No, they don't care anything about that. If you know that someone is analytical, they like logic, they like to solve problems, they like numbers and data, then you need to actually enter their office and talk to them using numbers and data and facts in a very concise way. And if you do that, I promise you, you will be able to build trusting relationships more quickly and more effectively with those analyticals. If you yourself are an analytical and you're, for example, talking to someone who is a amiable, you may actually want to talk to them a little bit about yourself or about your kids to start off a conversation and build some trust before you get into the facts. Because if you don't, they may think that you're pretty boring. All right. So you've got to understand that as well. So think about the people that you're interacting with and how you should communicate with them. And then think about yourself and the way that you communicate in order to tweak that perhaps a little bit in order to be more effective. Because as we communicate with others, our goal always is to build the relationship and build the trust that is needed between lawyer and client, or lawyer and peer, or lawyer and staff member. And if we can learn to use our social style and communicate more effectively, that trust and authenticity is just much easier to build. And I know what you're thinking. Well, how authentic is it if I'm trying to conform my style? Well, we do it all the time, believe it or not. Think about your first date. If your first date actually liked the color purple and you don't like the color purple, unless you were a hard driver, you would probably say, color purple is okay, you know, which would be a more amiable type of response. But you may actually love the color purple and be a driver and not like it at all. All right, so we conform the way we communicate with others in order to build relationships over time consistently throughout our lives. This is just doing it more intentionally. All right. It also really helps in networking situations, because I promise if you get really good at this, you'll be able to identify, for example, an expressive right away. And you probably already know that I am an expressive. So I'm talking with my hands, for example. I have on bright colors. I'm outgoing. I have a conversational style. That's an expressive. So when I talk to people, what I would rather them do is talk to me in the style that I'm accustomed to, which of course I think is the best style, my style, because we all think our style is the best, right? Having said that, when I walk into a room and I see somebody who is an expressive, I'm going to talk like I would normally talk. If I see somebody, on the other hand, who has on a black suit and a white shirt and maybe a red or not any kind of bright tie, and they're standing there and they look quite uncomfortable, I'm going to know that they're probably more of an analytical. They're probably not really high on the expressive or amiable side. So I'm going to talk to them by saying, "Hi, how are you? Tell me a little bit about what you do on a daily basis," so they can give me some of the facts about their job. All right, I'm probably not going to walk up to them and say, "Hey, isn't this a great party? Gosh, the gin and tonics are fantastic." All right, so because they'd probably look at me like, "Who are you, you freak?" All right, so just know that you have to watch people and notice people, and you'll be able to tell a lot about their particular style just by observing them. And that's something that you learn over time. In addition to this, I will tell you, even your online presence can be shaped by your social style. So, again, talking about myself, I use video quite a bit to promote myself because I want people to understand that I'm very conversational in the way that I speak. And because I do a lot of speaking and training, I want them to understand that's my particular style. Having said that, I know I sell to a lot of analyticals, and so I also use on our website a lot of facts and figures and numbers because that appeals to analytical. So when you're thinking about your online presence, website, marketing materials, things like that, think about pleasing all of those styles because that's really important, not just your particular style. Now, I will also tell you that it's important to understand that there's no right or wrong style. Nobody's the right style or the wrong style. Everybody has their individual style, and your individual style is honed over time, and you'll become more familiar with other people's styles and be able to identify them more rapidly as you learn more about these styles and over time, and as you really kind of test these theories. So if you go up and you start talking to somebody who's a highly expressive like me, and you become more animated in your conversation, and you sense that all of a sudden you're making headway with them more so than you may have in the past, then that means it's working. Okay, so hone these skills, understand that social styles and personality styles can both be used to increase your marketing and business development effectiveness, but you must understand yourself and understand others. Now go out and have a great rest of the week, and thanks for joining us for another 10-minute tip with T.